Welcome to The Randy Report. I'm Randy Slovacek, your host. I'm also the writer and editor of TheRandyReport.com, where you can find me every single day on the internet reporting on the daily news cycle in terms of politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community. Today, I'm chatting with Matthew Ohlshefski, who you may know better as YouTube's Shirtless Violinist. Matthew joins me today to talk about his wildly popular series of shirtless music videos showcasing his musical artistry. Since 2016, the classically trained musician has combined the violin with sex appeal and a splash of humor, channeling his passion for music into his own uber-successful YouTube channel that's garnered millions of views and has over 22,000 subscribers. His music videos range from pop songs like Ed Sheeran's Perfect, Adele's Someone Like You, and Sia's Chandelier, to gay Disney fairy tale remakes including The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, and Beauty and the Beast, to soundtrack covers of his own like The Greatest Showman, Star Wars, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and Stranger Things. Today, Matthew joins me to chat on how the Shirtless Violinist came to be, plus some of the obstacles he's faced along the way, not only creating the videos, but dodging some dodgy moves by internet trolls. Let's take a listen to one of Matthew's biggest hits, a gorgeous cover of Ed Sheeran's Perfect, and then we'll chat with the Shirtless Violinist.
Hey there.
How are you on this happy Friday?
I am doing well.
Thank you for having time to chat.
I'm so glad I can be on the podcast.
I will say congratulations on this awesome success of your videos on YouTube. This has been going on for 2 years. I was trying to figure out, when did you post your first video? Do you remember the date?
It was August 29th, 2 years ago. So we are just coming up on 2 years.
Oh my God, you just happen to know the date off the top of your head.
Well, it's also Paul's birthday.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started doing these terrific videos. You're a trained musician, clearly, classically trained. You play beautifully, by the way. What I always worry about sometimes, well, I don't worry, but I never want your talent to be eclipsed by the fact that you have that gorgeous hunky body and face. And I want to make sure that people hear your music because you are so talented. But it is terrific that we also get to see you shirtless. Never naked, just shirtless.
Yeah. You know, that was my boyfriend Paul's idea to add that component because he said, you need an edge. There's so many violinists out there on YouTube, and we need to have a little edge to what we're doing, something that will make it memorable, make people click on it and watch it. And I'm so glad he came up with that idea. He is, well, every once in a while he'll say, why did I ever suggest this shirtlessness?
Who knew?
Yeah. And I'll say, no, I'm so glad you did, because really it was something different that no one had done before. And that's not easy to find.
It is a difficult kind of noise to break through on the internet today. 20 years ago, if you'd put anything on the internet, we'd have just been thrilled because it was on the internet, because all we had was AOL.
Yes.
But today, there is so much different kind of content. And I remember the first time I saw your first video, I was like, well, that's brilliant. Good for you. Because we're looking at you because of the shirtlessness. I always say, when you've got a Porsche, you don't keep in the garage. But you play beautifully on top of it. And I think it's a great way to bring attention to your incredible talent. You've been playing since, how old were you when you picked up a violin?
I was 3 when I first started music lessons. And my family.
Did you like it?
I think so. I don't have any recollection of starting at the age of 3. All I can remember was just the violin was always there. It was always a part of my life. I do have very, very happy memories surrounding music and playing the violin and lessons and practicing daily. Obviously, there were days I did not want to practice as a child, and days I just made life hell for my parents because they were making sure I practiced every day and knew that the only way for me to get better was to be very disciplined.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I was watching some of your videos. I was reminded of one, and it took me back when music has been a big part of my life. I started singing when I was very young. I was in the Texas Boys Choir, and I toured nationally and internationally. I went on to sing and dance on Broadway, blah, blah, blah. But when I was young, I wanted to play an instrument, and my dad bought me a guitar, and I remember going to lessons once a week, and I have to say I failed because it just hurt my fingers so much. Now, the reason I tell this story is I was watching your video for Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And you were in this freezing weather, and the music's gorgeous, and you look awesome. But at one point, I remember thinking, oh my God, his fingers must be killing him. But you persevered. Do you remember was that a hard shoot? I'm just curious.
That was an incredibly difficult shoot. We were going up Mount Baker to film, not realizing that there was still snow up there. It was June, and we drove up. The higher we got, the more snow there was, the colder it was getting. And we drove as far as we could, and the road was closed. So we got out of our cars, packed up all our equipment, and walked further up a little more. And yeah, we were basically stuck. We'd come that far. We had to film that day. We were all prepped. Everything was there. So Paul hadn't even brought in a winter coat with him or gloves. He was freezing, but I kept reminding him, you can't complain. You at least have a shirt on. What was really the coldest part of that shoot was my fingers. My violin strings being metal were
that's what I'm thinking.
At about freezing temperature. So just touching my fingers to the strings was so painful. I could last about 3 minutes, and then I would just stop. And I would put the violin and bow between my knees and just stick my fingers underneath my armpits just to
Yes, absolutely. That's what I pictured, to be honest with you. I'm like, God bless his heart. His fingers have got to be freezing. I should mention, you've done so many different kinds of cover songs, though. You don't stay in one particular music niche. You've covered pop songs like Ed Sheeran's Perfect, Adele's Someone Like You, Sia's Chandelier, which I love. You've done the Disney fairy tale things, which might be my favorites, with Part of Your World and Beauty and the Beast, especially for the storytelling that you've done in those. Some of your videos are just pretty to look at, and you're pretty to look at, and the music's gorgeous. But when you get into the storytelling, I think that's really accomplished what you've been able to do.
That was really unforeseen. We stumbled across that. We knew we wanted to do beautiful music videos, and we really thought that the music was it. The shirtlessness was going to make it fun, sexy, we were going to make classical music sexy, which no one was doing. And we were just putting together, like you said, music from all different genres. We just felt like we could do anything and should just really shake it up. So we decided on Disney. Paul grew up loving Disney. I love what Disney does. So we thought, Beauty and the Beast, such a great song. Let's do it. We weren't really sure what we were going to do with the story, but we thought it'd be fun to throw in a little story. We went through various ideas. We thought we'd find a drag queen, maybe. We were going to start with actually a girl to play a dancer. And then we thought, well, it'd be a little more fun maybe if we had a drag queen. So then we tried to find a drag queen. That wasn't working out. So finally, Paul was like, well, we can't find anybody. I'll do it. He'd never done drag before. So we were like, okay, fine. So we went from just having, a beautiful girl dancing to Paul's doing drag. That day, our videographer wasn't able to make it. So a friend of a friend who had never operated a camera before used our camera. So we just threw that together. We really enjoyed the little story we were going to tell, put it out there. And that was our first really viral video.
Really?
Got written about in over 50 countries. I lost count of the number of articles in different languages at like 70. I couldn't keep up with them because before that, I had always been able to count and keep track, kind of keep a record of who was writing about it. And that one we just gave up on. And so we realized, looking back at it afterwards, like, wow, there's a whole new component of this. It's representation. We get to represent our community and gay love to the world. We've grown up with heterosexual love stories all our lives.
Absolutely.
And we loved them. We loved it when Disney had the prince and the princess, but we'd never seen those portrayed with two men. And so we realized then that that was an important part of what we were going to do, and we were going to really pursue that. And we did that with The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, and then Ed Sheeran. Perfect. We decided that we would just tell kind of our story, a story that everybody could relate to, with kind of just the text messages that everybody who's, been in a little relationship, long or short, can probably relate to. And that one was actually the first one to cross 500,000 yesterday. And we had a little celebration.
Oh my God, I would too.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that number. You've had a couple of million views of your videos on YouTube, and you mentioned different countries and coverage. I think it's very important to say that, like, you've been featured on NBC, and like outlets like Cosmopolitan and the Randy Report have covered you. I just think it's awesome that there's all of this attention and interest to not only the storytelling and the gay component, but also to the music. And, I just finished watching a couple of weeks ago the new FX series Pose, and Billy Porter, the Tony Award winner, is a longtime friend of mine going back to 1991, and so I couldn't miss watching it. And of course, as an LGBT writer, I had to watch it, and I loved it. And the reason I bring it up is, can you imagine 10 years ago, talking about where society has moved now, 10 years ago, that we would have a series like Pose with transgender and gay and lesbian characters on TV, that we would have the Shirtless Violinist telling gay love stories with millions of hits on the internet? Isn't that fantastic that we've come this far so far?
It really is amazing. I was actually listening to one of your podcasts where you were talking about a TV show, Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh, yes.
How groundbreaking
Back
that
in
was
73,
at that time.
yeah.
And Paul and I talked to Paul about that, and he and I were both talking about how, isn't it amazing where we live today?
Oh, yeah. It really, a lot of people complain, being in the LGBT media, I'm used to reading my fellow journalists, and most of the time we have our advocates out there, and they're doing what they're supposed to. They're fighting. Every now and then, though, I do like to take a breath and go, look how far we have come. Can we just take a minute and appreciate this? I think 2015 in June was one of the greatest days of my life, with the Obergefell decision from the Supreme Court. And I think every now and then it's nice that we do just take a breath and enjoy that we have made some progress. We've made this progress. Let me put it that way. I don't want to diminish or pump it up, but it is what it is. And I do celebrate that a lot.
Yeah, it is really amazing. Even this last year, just to watch, for example, Adam Rippon at the Olympics really take off. And then the Queer Eye, just the progress. and how accepted these people are in mainstream media is really, really encouraging.
Do you mind me bringing up a subject? I know in interviews you've mentioned the fact that not all of your family necessarily is all that gay friendly. Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, I grew up in a very religious environment. My dad was a school teacher before my mom and dad had kids. And as a teacher, he became pretty dissatisfied, disenfranchised with the school system and decided that he wanted something better for his kids. And so my mom and dad decided to homeschool and just see how that went. So we were homeschooled right off from kindergarten. And that was wonderful for music because we could devote, hours a day to music and fit it in among with our other subjects. So we really allowed us to be very disciplined and devote a great, you didn't have to wait till after school when you're tired and worn down. It actually just could fit into the middle of the day nicely. So that was a really, I loved that. It was a great thing. However, around the age of 12, we joined a homeschool group. It was non-denominational, but it was definitely a cult. In fact, the leader of that cult has had to step down due to sexual allegations. So it's kind of...
Isn't it always the way?
I
hate
know.
to say it, but
it's sad, but it's very, very validating to be able to look back and see that there were so many problems with it. But one of their teachings was that homosexuality was an abomination. So that was a very challenging thing to grow up with. It was funny. There were so many indications that I was gay. In fact, when I came out, I really felt like, well, it shouldn't be a surprise to any of you. Why are you guys acting surprised?
Right.
But despite that, here I am attracted to men, but never thinking that I was a homosexual because they're abominations and I'm a good kid. So I'm just attracted to men. I'm not a homosexual. I laugh about it now.
That word.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was definitely a challenge. And so when I came out, certain members of my family, struggled with that. And some of my family has been extremely supportive. And I think that's probably common for everybody's experience. You get a whole spectrum of reactions.
I agree with that. I do. And, I'm older than you are. I remember when I came out to my dad, at that time, I come from a very small Czech family in Texas. And I think there were like at the time 5 Slovakians total. If someone says the word Slovak, I'm like, who, where? Because there aren't very many of us. But I basically came out to my dad and my brother, who's also gay. And that was pretty much it. And so there wasn't much to come out to. But I do think a lot of people encounter that same dynamic where by the time you come out, everyone around you knows anyway. And they're just kind of waiting for you to say the word so we can get past this thing. Yeah. We know. I did want to ask because I mentioned the social media aspect of all of this and the idea of 10 years ago versus today. But you're so big on YouTube. And lately in the media, we've seen a lot about YouTube censoring or limiting or Facebook algorithms. Have you encountered anything like that with your YouTube channel? Have you been censored or has anything happened with your channel?
Absolutely. Definitely on YouTube. Yeah, we haven't noticed it on Facebook yet, but definitely on YouTube. There's been a couple of times over the past 2 years where a thumbnail, which is the still image that we upload, that's what you see before you click on the video, we would upload a thumbnail. And there were a couple of times where it was of Paul and I kissing. And twice they disappeared. They were gone. And we didn't think anything of it other than there's a glitch in the system. We would re-upload them.
Yeah, that would be me. Yeah.
And it seemed fine. Then when we released Perfect, the Ed Sheeran, our own little gay love story, it was 2 months ago that we released that, 3 months ago, we were watching the views come in and it was taking off. And we were getting up to 16,000 views in an hour.
Oh my gosh.
A little channel like us, that was huge.
Awesome.
We had the analytics open on our desktop computers in our little office. Paul was watching it every minute. And
how thrilling.
We were really, really thrilled. All of a sudden, Paul calls out to me from the little office. He's like, oh no, the views stopped. The thumbnail's gone. So I thought, oh, what a horrible time for the thumbnail.
You're so nice.
So I quickly upload it. And I think I really need to contact YouTube because this bug just, I didn't care before, but now I care because there was definitely a association with the thumbnail being disappearing and the views going from 16,000 an hour down to like 300 an hour. So I started dialoguing with them. Paul continued to watch the views and they kind of came up again, not anywhere as high as we were getting. And then the thumbnail vanished again.
Again?
A second time. A couple hours later, again, the views halted. I was screenshotting the analytics and like circling and highlighting what happened. And I'm sending this to YouTube. So the second time we uploaded again, the views came up, and this time they're back up to it's under 1,000 an hour. So several hundred. YouTube basically said to me, the only reason a thumbnail can be removed is if it's flagged. If it's flagged, it's manually reviewed. And if it's manually reviewed, it can be removed. And I said, are you sure there isn't a bug in the system? They're like, we're not aware of any bugs. I said, so was it flagged and manually reviewed and removed? And they said, we don't confirm when that does happen, but it's the only reason that happens. So, okay, they're telling me without telling me that the only reason it was removed is because that happened. So we decided to upload almost the same thumbnail, but we just picked a different screenshot when we were hugging. We hugged before we kissed. We uploaded that. It was fine. It never got removed, and the views never ever recovered. So there's a political reporter who reached out to me at that time and said, this is a big problem on YouTube. There are groups of trolls across the United States. He said, we know some of them are in Portland. Some of them are even in Seattle. Who knows who's targeting you? But they target same-sex affection on YouTube. They'll flag it. The video is then sent to usually Indonesia to be reviewed, or the Philippines. Actually, I think it's the Philippines. His guess is that because the Philippines is a very Catholic country,
sure,
maybe more conservative, that they would see something like that and maybe be more prone to remove it. We don't know. We just know that whatever policies YouTube has in place or whoever's manually reviewing these, something like that got removed. And when it got removed, we were, our views essentially ground to a halt. That was kind of heartbreaking that we were targeted like that and that YouTube didn't support us, didn't have our back. It was also at the same time kind of invigorating, like there's people still out there like this and we have got to keep doing what we're doing and we will fight back because I'm a fighter. So we actually waited 2 months and then just 2 weeks ago put back up the thumbnail of us kissing.
I'm looking at it right now. I love it.
It took off again. In fact, it took off and within like 24 hours, 48 hours, it was getting 100,000 views per 2 days, which for us is really good. And it crossed 500,000. So it was very validating for us to feel like we kind of put it back. We bided our time. If there were trolls that are targeting new videos, maybe looking at older videos, whatever the case, it was kind of reassuring for us that we still went out for that. There's been other cases with YouTube, like Someone Like You, which is the Adele song with the dancer, beautiful depiction of how the dancer represents my violin and the music that goes out.
It's gorgeous.
And I like to take some videos once in a while and run them as a YouTube ad so that YouTube will place them next to other videos on channels like mine as like a suggested video to try to expand our audience and grow the number of eyes that see them. And someone was flagged as adult content and could not be run as an ad. And that was shocking to me.
Wow.
A kiss in that. There was no display of same-sex affection, which shouldn't be an issue for YouTube.
Of course not.
So yeah, there's been a couple of times like that where we've been told our video was adult content.
Wow. Well, I have to tell you, you're a man after my own heart with being a fighter and coming back 3 months later. Well, I'm going to put the thumbnail back now. And then getting those hits and everything. Sometimes you have to outsmart the trolls however you can. And, God knows, can't they just focus on how idiotic is that they're attacking and trying to bring down just terrific music with terrific imagery. I've reported on this story on my blog before, the fact that a lot of LGBT outlets are saying that they're getting buried, they're getting kind of cut off from hits and stuff. So it's important, though, that you guys on YouTube keep fighting back, and however you can outsmart them, do it. Because, I don't know, is this the 300-pound person sitting on a bed in a basement, waiting to, flag Matthew's videos? How silly is that?
Yeah, it is. It is sad. I mean, we were talking about the progress that we've made, and it is wonderful, but it's sad that there still are people out there that hate.
It's why I'm a little hesitant when I bring that up. We can't count our chickens yet. We can't celebrate just yet. But, for every 2 steps forward, there's one back, and that's our one back right there. But I do celebrate your success so much. I do. I love the videos. I've been posting them ever since you began on the Randy Report, and I just think you're terrific. I love that you're bringing something different, and, especially working for Instinct now, I'm very aware of how media plays a part in how artists get out there. And, one of the things I enjoy about being on Instinct right now is before I got there, they did music, but not a lot. And a big part of the Randy Report, my blog, is to promote out artists, because I think if we want to see ourselves in art and in television and in music and in books and movies and film, that we have to support it and we have to know it's out there. And I'm very well aware that I never put anything in front of my viewers that I don't think is great. I don't write bad reviews. I don't want to criticize someone. But if I like it, I want people to know about it. I love that you're putting this music out there and that you have come up with your own niche. And I just look forward to more music from you and Paul. I love seeing Paul in the videos too. Please tell him that.
Oh, thank you. I will.
And thank you for having time to chat.
Yes, thank you, Randy. This was a pleasure and an honor. So much fun to finally be on the show.
Congratulations, and I look forward to... Oh, by the way, so I should say, officially, my favorite Shirtless Violinist video is with Tom Goss with Ed Sheeran's Perfect, because he's a friend of mine and I adore Tom, and it was great to see you guys on the balcony of where were you guys? Seattle, was it?
Yes, downtown Seattle.
There you were, and you're out there in the sun, and Tom is a good friend of mine now. I've been covering him also as another out artist, and I love seeing the two of you together. I was like, oh, my world comes together. Look at this.
Yeah, I actually just messaged him again yesterday, and I said, we have to do that again. This time I'll come down to LA.
Yes, and he needs to be shirtless next time, too. It's a requirement.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Well, listen, thank you, Matthew, so much for having time to chat. I celebrate you, and I look forward to the next video.
Oh, thank you. Bye for now.
I can't encourage you enough to make sure you head over to Matthew's YouTube channel and check out all of his videos. This is really terrific stuff. And as I've always said, if we want to see our lives reflected in music, in movies, in art, we need to support our own, because if we're not going to support our own, who will? And this is really quality stuff. And if you like what you hear, and I'm pretty certain you will, head over to iTunes and download some of Matthew's recordings. And that brings me to the end of this episode of The Randy Report. If you enjoy catching up on LGBTQ news in a quick podcast, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind sharing The Randy Report with your friends. I like to think of this podcast as the 60 minutes of gay news, only shorter. And remember, you can find me every single day on the internet at therandyreport.com, where I cover the daily news cycle regarding politics, pop culture, and entertainment news of interest to the LGBTQ community. I'm going to close with just one more track from Matthew Ohlshefski's fabulous music. This is his version of Beauty and the Beast. Thanks for listening, folks. See you next time.